Hello students. In the previous video you have studied about the male reproductive system. Today we will be dealing with the female reproductive system. And in the female reproductive system is located in the pelvic region, and the female reproductive system is consisting of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, the uterus, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia. Now the pair of ovaries form the primary sex organ because they produce the female gamete. And then the oviducts, uterus, cervix, vagina, all these are the accessory female reproductive ducts. The accessory ducts they are. A functional mammary gland is a characteristic of all female mammals, and the mammary glands are paired structures that contain glandular tissues and a large amount of fat. Each mammary gland consists of about 15 to 25 mammary lobules, and each of these lobule is with its own duct, which is called as the lactiferous duct that emerges in the nipple. Now the lobules are compound tubulo-alveolar glands, and they contain the mammary alveoli, which are lined with the milk producing cells. Each lobule is separated from the other by fibrous tissue, which is the connective tissue, and fatty or adipose tissue. The cells of the alveoli secrete milk, which is stored in the cavities or the lumens of the alveoli, and the alveoli open into the mammary tubules. The tubules of each lobe join to form the mammary duct, and several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla, which is composed or which is connected to the lactiferous duct, and through the lactiferous duct the milk ejects out. So the pair of ovaries forming the primary reproductive organ, the female sex gametes are produced in the ovaries. Now these ovaries are the paired structures which are present on either side of the uterus in the lower abdominal cavity, and the ovaries are held in position which is connected to the pelvic wall as well as the wall of the uterus with the help of ligaments. And each ovary is shaped like an almond ovary, the egg shaped, the shape of an almond, and which is approximately 2 to 4 centimeters in length, and it contains a large number of, that means thousands of developing follicles. And each ovary consists of an outer cortex and an inner medulla, this ovary is surrounded by the connective tissue sheath, which is the tunica albuginea, and the inner surface of the ovary is covered with the germinal epithelium, which is formed of the simple squamous or cuboidal epithelium, which gives rise to the follicles or the eggs or the ovum. Now the female accessory duct system consists of a pair of oviducts or the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the vagina. Now the fallopian tubes or the oviducts are the tubes that carry the eggs from the ovary to the uterus. Each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 centimeters long and extends from the periphery of the ovary to the uterus. And the parts of the oviduct which is closer to the ovary is a funnel shaped part which is called as the infundibulum. The funnel shaped part which is called as the infundibulum, and the edges of the infundibulum is like the having finger like projections, and these finger like projections are called as the fimbriae. Okay. Now the fimbriae help in the collection of the releasing ovum or the egg from the ovary into the oviduct. Now the infundibulum leads to the wider part of the oviduct which is called as the ampulla, and the ampulla leads to the still narrower part which is called as the isthmus, and the isthmus joins to the uterus. So the oviduct has got three parts: the infundibulum with the finger like projections called the fimbriae, then slightly swollen part the ampulla, and the narrower part the isthmus which is connecting to the uterus. Now the fallopian tube is lined with cilia, so that helps the egg to move through the fallopian tubes towards the uterus. And if sperms are present, fertilization takes place in the upper part of or upper end of the uterus, upper end of the fallopian tube. So in human beings the fertilization is taking place in the upper end of the fallopian tubes. Then comes the uterus. The two fallopian tubes open into the thick walled muscular organ, the uterus, and the uterus is single, which is called as the womb, and it is pear shaped. It has got an inverted pear shape, and the uterus is attached to the pelvic wall by ligaments, and it is in the uterus during the pregnancy the embryo grows. And the inner lining of the uterus is called as the endometrium, and which is richly supplied with the blood vessels. And of course glands are also present, and the lower tip of the uterus is called as the cervix, and the canal which is passing through the cervix is called as the cervical canal. Alright, and the wall of the uterus has basically three layers of tissue. The outermost one is the perimetrium, and the middle one is the myometrium, and the innermost one is the endometrium. The perimetrium, which is the outermost thin membrane, and just inside the perimetrium is the myometrium, which is thick layer of smooth muscles. And the endometrium is the innermost glandular layer which lines the cavity of the uterus, and the endometrium undergoes cyclic changes during the menstrual cycle, but the myometrium undergoes contractions during the time of childbirth, delivery of the baby. And the vagina, which is the large muscular tube that runs from the uterus to the outside, and the vagina receives the sperms during the copulation or mating, and serves as the birth canal during the birth of the child. Then there is the external genitalia. The female external genitalia include mons pubis, labia majora, and then labia minora. Then hymen and clitoris are also considered as the external genitalia. Okay. Now, the mons pubis is the outermost structure of the external genitalia, which is fatty tissue covered by the skin and the pubic hair. Then the second one is labia majora. These are again fleshy folds of skin which extends down from the labia, mons pubis, and the labia majora surround the vaginal opening. Then there is a paired fold which is called as the labia minora, which lies under the labia majora. Then the hymen is a membrane that partially covers the vagina, and this may be get torn due to sudden fall or due to certain activities like sports activities. Then the clitoris is a very tiny structure which lies at the upper junction of the labia minora above the urethral opening. So the oviducts, uterus, vagina, clitoris and the accessory genital glands as well as the mammary glands constitute the secondary sexual organs of the female. The primary sex organs, that is the testes in males and the ovaries in females, they produce the gametes. Testis produces the sperms, the male gametes, and the ovaries produce the female gamete, that is the ovum or the egg. So the process of formation of the gametes is called as gametogenesis. So the process of formation of sperms in the testis is called as spermatogenesis, and the formation of ovum in the ovary is called as oogenesis. Now we will study about the spermatogenesis first. So in the testis, the immature male germ cells are there which produce sperms by the process called as the spermatogenesis. And the spermatogenesis begins at the pubertal age. So at the puberty, the spermatogenesis begins. And the spermatogenesis occurs in the seminiferous tubules of the testis. You have studied the anatomical structure of the seminiferous tubules. And the seminiferous tubules are made of the germinal epithelial cells which are surrounded by the Sertoli cells, which are providing the nutrition to the growing germinal epithelial cells. Okay. Now the germinal epithelial cells are the primary germ cells which line the seminiferous tubules internally, and these cells are diploid in nature, and they undergo a number of stages to give rise to the haploid spermatids. And the Sertoli cells, which are seen along with the primary germ cells, are large elongated supporting cells present in between the strands of the developing spermatids. And the Sertoli cells are projecting into the lumen of the tube, that is the seminiferous tubule. And the Sertoli cells provide nourishment to the developing sperms, and the spermatids get embedded in the Sertoli cells, and there they get transformed into sperms. And these sperms are, however, immature, and they are then stored in the next part of the seminiferous tubule, that means the epididymis, where they turn into the mature sperms. Okay. So the spermatids which are formed in the seminiferous tubules are in the immature form, which are taken to the epididymis, where they are actually transformed into the mature sperms. Okay. Now there are many stages in the development of or in the process of spermatogenesis. So the various stages you can see. The four important stages of spermatogenesis are the first one, multiplicative phase, the growth phase, and maturation phase, and the spermiogenesis. So spermatogenesis includes four different phases: multiplicative, growth, maturation phase, and the spermiogenesis. Now we'll study each phase in detail. The multiplication phase, where the germinal epithelial cells, or we call it as the primary germ cells of the seminiferous tubules, which are very minute, 12 micrometers in diameter, and at maturity they undergo repeated mitotic divisions and forming the spermatogonia. So primary germ cell undergoes various stages of mitosis repetitively and forming the spermatogonia. That is the first phase, the multiplicative phase. So each spermatogonia formed is diploid containing 46 chromosomes in humans. You are studying human reproductive system. So here the spermatogenesis in the first phase, multiplicative phase, the primary germ cells which are present in the seminiferous tubules undergo mitotic divisions repetitively and they form the spermatogonia. That is the multiplicative phase. Then the second phase, that is the growth phase. So some of these spermatogonia increase in size, that is its growth, by accumulating the nourishing materials from the germinal cells, and they become the primary spermatocytes. So after the growth phase, the spermatogonia becomes the primary spermatocyte. And the growth phase is actually the preparatory phase for initiation of the next phase, that is the meiotic divisions. So the primary spermatocyte is large and diploid, which will undergo the next phase, that is the dividing phase or the meiotic phase or the maturation phase. Okay, so each primary spermatocyte, which is diploid, undergoes the first meiotic division, thereby giving rise to two haploid secondary spermatocyte. Okay, you can see the secondary spermatocyte. The first one is the primary spermatocyte. Now here you have the secondary spermatocyte. Now you could not see. Okay, the secondary spermatocyte undergo second meiotic division, which is equational division, and produce a total number of 4 equal haploid spermatids, and each spermatid has 23 chromosomes. And these spermatids are unspecialized cells and they do not undergo any further division. All the 4 spermatids, though they have separate nuclear matter, still remains connected by the cytoplasm, and they separate out only during the spermiogenesis, that is the next part. Now spermiogenesis is the transformation of the unspecialized spermatid into the sperms or the spermatozoa. The secondary spermatocyte forming the spermatids by the second meiotic division, and this is the immature form which will mature into the sperms. So that the maturation of the spermatids into sperms is called as the spermiogenesis. Okay, so the spermatids getting transformed into the sperms. Now these spermatids formed, which will be getting embedded among the Sertoli cells, and the Sertoli cells provide support as well as nutrition, and the spermatids get transformed into the sperms by losing a lot of cytoplasm. Then condensation of the nucleus will take place, and the nucleus will have the head and then the rest of the parts of the sperm, and the formation of the tail also happens in the spermiogenesis. So during the development of the spermatid, the flagellated tail of the sperm projects into the lumen of the seminiferous tubule, but the head is embedded in the Sertoli cells. The mature sperm finally gets detached, and then it is released into the lumen of the seminiferous tubules by the process called as spermiation. Now the temperature is a very crucial factor for the development of the sperms. So if for any reason the testes fail to descend from the abdominal cavity, and then spermatogenesis does not take place, and this lead to the sterility. Spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty due to the increase in the secretion of gonadotropin releasing hormone. And this gonadotropin releasing hormone is a hypothalamic hormone. Increased levels of this gonadotropin releasing hormone acts at the anterior pituitary gland and stimulates the secretion of two gonadotropins, that is the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. So LH and FSH are secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. Now the LH or the luteinizing hormone acts on the Leydig cells, and the Leydig cells get stimulated and they start secreting the testosterone, the male hormone, the androgen. And the androgens stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. Okay, so the LH stimulates the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells to secrete androgens like the testosterone, and which is essential for the spermatogenesis. Now the next one, the FSH or follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the Sertoli cells, thereby the sperms develop, or that stimulates the spermiogenesis. Next is the structure of human sperm. The human sperm is a microscopic flagellated motile cell which is having different parts like the head, neck, middle piece and the tail. The head part is slightly oval and contains a large nucleus which has highly condensed DNA matter, and the nucleus contains of course a haploid number of chromosomes, and over the anterior half of the nucleus is present the cap-like structure which is called as the acrosome, and the acrosome is actually the modified Golgi body, and acrosome contains enzymes which are necessary for the fertilization. The next part is the neck, which has got a pair of centrioles, the proximal and the distal centrioles, which are present at right angles to each other. And from one of the centrioles emerge the fine fibrils or the microtubules, which run through the middle piece and form the axial filament of the tail piece. Then the middle piece contains the mitochondria, which is in a spiral form, and the microtubules of the centriole is passing through the middle piece. Ring centriole is present at the junction between the middle piece and the tail piece. The function of the ring centriole is not clearly understood yet. Now the last part is the tail piece or flagellum it is called. It consists of a specific arrangement of microtubules, 9+2 arrangement, which is typical of the flagellum. And the tail or the flagellum gives the motility or mobility to the sperms. The next is oogenesis, that is the formation of the female gamete or the ovum. Now the oogenesis is similar to spermatogenesis, but the oogenesis begins early in the embryonic stage of the child, when the fetus is about 25 weeks old in the uterus itself. The development of the ovum in the ovary starts. A couple of million gamete mother cells or the oogonia are formed within each fetal ovary, and no more oogonia are formed or added after the birth. A baby girl is born with a set of number of primary oocytes already in the first prophase of the meiotic division in the ovary. So when the child is born, she will have the ovary with millions of primary oocytes, and further development of the oocytes remain suspended till the puberty. And once the girl child reaches the puberty, then start the formation of the ovum, mature ovum from the oogonia. So that is called as the oogenesis. There are various stages in the oogenesis. The first one is the multiplication phase. Then like in the male gamete, 3 different stages are there. Similarly here also multiplication phase, growth phase, meiotic or the maturation phase. So 3 phases are there. In the first phase, that is the multiplication phase, the cells of the germinal epithelium of the ovary undergoes a number of mitotic divisions. Thereby the number of cells will be increased. And these cells are called as the oogonia. Primary germ cell undergoes mitotic divisions, and a large number of oogonia are formed. And the oogonia are diploid ones. They contain 46 chromosomes. And in the second phase, that is the growth phase, only some of the oogonia increase in size and undergo a growth phase, and thereby they get converted into the primary oocytes. So primary oocyte also is a diploid cell. So the oogonia grow and become the primary oocyte. Then in the third phase, that is the maturation phase or the meiotic phase, the primary oocyte undergoes the first meiotic division. Thereby 2 haploid cells are produced, and the division is unequal. So one of the cells are smaller in size, which is called as the polar body. After the first meiotic division, the first polar body is formed, and the other bigger cell is the secondary oocyte. And the secondary oocyte, which is large and receives most of the cytoplasm. So the other cell form, that is the first polar body, is smaller in size. Now in the second meiotic division, that is the secondary oocyte divides to form a large ovum, and the smaller second polar body is formed. And the first polar body also undergoes division simultaneously, forming two small polar bodies from them. The primary oocyte gives rise to one ovum, and the rest of them are the polar bodies. So 3 polar bodies are formed. And in humans, normally the first polar body does not undergo the second meiotic division. So in human beings you will find 2 polar bodies only. And the egg that is formed, that is the ovum after the second meiotic division. The egg formed during the ovulation, that is released from the Graafian follicle, is actually the secondary oocyte, which has undergone only the first meiotic division. So the mature egg is completed only the first meiotic division and till the metaphase stage of the second meiotic division. And the rest of the second meiotic divisions take place only at the time of fertilization, just before the fusion with the sperm. As soon as the sperm enters, it starts the second meiotic division, and then the secondary oocyte turns into the ovum. The primary oocyte, which is surrounded by a layer of cells, the follicle cells or the granulosa cells, then the primary oocyte is called as the primary follicle. Okay, the primary follicle is actually the primary oocyte which is surrounded by the follicle cells or the granulosa cells. And the follicle cells are protective and nutritive in function. So they provide protection and nutrition to the primary follicle. Now as the primary oocyte grows further, the follicle or granulosa cells increase in number. So the primary follicle gets surrounded by more layers of granulosa cells, and the follicular fluid also accumulates in small cavities in between the cells. Then the structure is called as the secondary follicle. Now the secondary follicle cells grow further, and small cavities merge together, and one large fluid filled cavity is formed, which is called as the antrum. So the mature follicle then is called as a Graafian follicle. Okay, so the secondary follicle cells grows, and the smaller cavities which are fluid filled will be merging together, forming a bigger or larger fluid filled cavity, which is called as the antrum. And then at this stage the secondary follicle is called as the Graafian follicle, which is almost 1 centimeter in diameter and protrudes on the surface of the ovary. And when the secondary follicle or the Graafian follicle, the ovum is mature, then the secondary oocyte is released from the Graafian follicle, and finally the release is happening by the rupture of the Graafian follicle, releasing the ova. So this process of release of ova from the mature Graafian follicle is called as the ovulation.